Hi, I'm Nick Lusanteg, Senior Manager of Sustainability here at Sustain.Life, and this is the Week in Sustainability. This is where our team of experts get together to share some of the most important stories in sustainability. I'm here today with my colleague, Hannah Osofsky, a data analyst on our team. Hannah, how's it going today?
Going great. How are you?
Doing well? Are you ready to talk about some sustainability news?
Yeah, totally. So I really wanted to talk about this new law that just went into effect at the beginning of the year in France. It's their new anti-waste and circular economy law. And I wanted to call out a really specific part of this law that implements some really serious demands on the apparel and footwear industry. So this law is going to require that apparel and footwear producers are providing a lot more information to consumers when it comes to their labeling. So new labels have to require a percentage of recycled material by weight, in addition to the future recyclability of the item, harmful chemicals used in production. And I think most interestingly to me is that they have to come with a warning about microplastic shedding on synthetic fibers. I think that's something that people don't think about all that often and definitely aren't looking at sort of the composition of their fabrics. On top of what needs to be stated on the labels, this law is also taking some language off the table. So, items that are only industrially compostable can no longer claim to be compostable. Typical consumers don't see compostable and understand the levels of compostability. And so it really plainly is greenwashing to pretend that a product is compostable when it's not ending up in the right place based on consumer action. And I think in the same vein, biodegradable and environmentally friendly have been taken totally off the table. And lastly, this law also says that a product can't claim to be recycled unless it's 95% or more recycled product, which is a great threshold. So companies that aren't already engaged with their suppliers, this is a big obstacle. If you're already really familiar with your suppliers and really know what your product is, this isn't going to be a huge lift for those companies. But then I think there are some real obstacles that haven't been addressed by the law yet. So companies that are dealing with vintage or dead stock textiles, like really don't know what went into that production. And that just hasn't been fully ironed out yet. But plainly, I think that this is a good thing. The fashion industry has a really strong history in France, and they're really present in the economy and really present in the kinds of contribution to waste overall. Setting up these kinds of expectations and putting them into law is a really good act of industry leadership. And personally, I think that, the more information a consumer has, the better. And these companies aren't benefiting from greenwashing anymore without really like throwing their weight behind the terms.
Yeah, standardizing those terms is a big deal for me
Yeah,
because it's very problematic how much they get thrown around. Um, so hopefully we get something like that here in the US.
love to see it.
For our next topic, we're going to keep it in France and we're going to stay on the topic of waste and pollution, actually, but we're going to turn our eyes towards the consumer packaged goods brand Danone, who we here in the US know as Dannon. So not only is their name synonymous with yogurt, but they also own brands like Evian, which I think is a big part of the story I'm about to tell, as well as Silk, the non-dairy milk maker. So what's going on with Danone? Danone is being sued by a few environmental groups in France for their contributions to plastic waste. Danone is one of the world's top 10 plastic polluters. In 2021 alone, they used over 800,000 tons of plastic in their products. That's almost 75 times the weight of the Eiffel Tower. So talking about a lot of plastic. So how are they being sued? They're being sued under another landmark French law, one that was passed in 2017, called the Duty of Vigilance Law. That law requires companies to take steps to prevent environmental damage and human rights violations. And this case kind of resembles some smaller scale lawsuits we've had in the US here against plastic polluters like Coca-Cola. The main difference is the cases that are happening here are at a lower level, so they're happening at the state level, and they're also being argued on consumer protection grounds. So those cases are arguing that these companies are their advertising is inconsistent with their practices, whereas this case is arguing that simply Danone has not done anything to address its plastic footprint. So what are they asking for in this lawsuit? They're asking for Danone to release a plan within 6 months that includes the phase out of all plastics and for Danone to be fined $100,000 a day for every day beyond 6 months that they don't do that. So they're asking for a lot, I think rightfully so. Um, Big case. We'll keep eyes on it as it moves forward. As we close out today's episode, I did want to finish with some trivia. I mentioned that Danone is one of the top 10 plastic polluters in the world. So for our viewers at home, take a moment and pause the video. Think about who you think might else be in that top 10. So in our top four, no surprises. These are pretty much all consumer packaged goods brands. Top four, we've got Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Nestle, and Unilever. Then at number five, we've got Mondelez Foods, who we would know as like the snack food arm of Kraft Foods here in the US. We've got Mars, the candy maker, P&G, the big consumer packaged goods brand out of Ohio, Philip Morris, not really consumer packaged goods, but kind of a surprise, and Ferrero Group, another candy maker. So next time you see an ad from one of these companies about their environmental practices, know that things may not always be as they seem. That wraps up today's The Week in Sustainability. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.